Hey guys, what's up? Derek here from Bomb Socks with more Bomb Bites, where we feast upon the words of Christ one bite at a time. So today I want to take you into Acts chapter 25 and 26. And you've got Paul, who has been standing in front of the Roman governor Festus, again, some great names back here, and he is given an opportunity to stand before King Herod Agrippa II. Now, you might hear that name Herod. He is the grandson of the Herod that tried to kill Jesus back at his birth, and this is son of Agrippa I, who killed James the apostle. So you'd be kind of scared if you're testifying of Jesus Christ in front of this guy. But Agrippa shows a little bit of, compassion, shows a little bit of mercy towards him. He wants to hear Paul. In fact, you go down to the end of chapter 25, about verse 22, he says, Agrippa said unto Festus, I would also hear the man myself. So he stands before King Agrippa and tries to basically plead his case. As you get into chapter 26, now Agrippa said to Paul, Thou art permitted to speak for thyself. Then Paul stretched forth his hand and answered for himself, I think myself happy, King Agrippa. Now, let me pause there for a second right there. I'm going to take this way out of context because I really do believe here, as you look in other translation of the Bible, the NIV says, King Agrippa, I consider myself fortunate. The New Living Translation, I am fortunate, King Agrippa. But there is something about the phrase, I think myself happy. You know, you could have fun with that phrase. Again, it's like how much of happiness in our life has to do with our thoughts. You know, I've heard about the principle called the 90-10 principle, where life is basically 10% of what happens to you that you have zero control over, and then 90% of how you choose to deal with it. It's that quote I shared with you from President Nelson about saints being happy under any circumstances. I think myself happy. Just a little plug there for that one. Again, I'm taking it out of context there, but I love that phrase. I think it's very powerful. So I think myself happy, King Agrippa, because I shall answer for myself this day before thee, touching all things whereof I am accused of the Jews. And you go down to the end of verse 3, he says, Wherefore I beseech thee to hear me patiently, which Agrippa does. So Paul goes through, and most of this chapter, he's recounting his conversion story back in Acts chapter 9 about, what a bad dude he was as far as, taking people off. And he said he consented unto their deaths. And he says, but I've changed because Jesus Christ came and visited me. In fact, there's some nice little additions here in chapter 26 that we don't see back in Acts chapter 9. For example, verse number 16. This is Jesus Christ talking to Paul. Rise and stand upon thy feet, for I have appeared unto thee for this purpose, to make thee a minister and a witness both of these things which thou hast seen, and of those things in which I will appear unto thee, delivering thee from the people and from the Gentiles, unto whom now I send thee, to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan unto God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. Whereupon, O King Agrippa, I was not disobedient unto the heavenly vision. So I love that little addition where it says Jesus Christ tells him, look, you're going to go out there and open people's eyes from darkness to light and from the power of Satan unto God, and that they will receive forgiveness of sins. So that's a nice little addition to that right there. And Paul starts going off. As he keeps testifying, verse 22, having therefore obtained help of God, I continue unto this day, witnessing to both small and great, saying none other things than those which the prophets and Moses did say should come, that Christ should suffer, and that he should be the first that should rise from the dead, and should shew light unto the people and unto the Gentiles. I can just see Paul being very passionate as he's sharing this, because verse 24, as he thus spake for himself, Festus, this governor, said with a loud voice, Paul, thou art beside thyself. Much learning doth make thee mad. So here he is. He's like, Paul, look, you're going crazy, man, with all of this Jesus stuff that you're talking about. And then verse 25, but he said, I am not mad, most noble Festus, but speak forth the words of truth and soberness. And then I just picture him turning to King Agrippa. For the king knoweth of these things, before whom I shall speak freely. For I am persuaded that none of these things are hidden from him. For this thing was not done in a corner. King Agrippa, believest thou the prophets? I know that thou believest. That's a bold witness of Paul. He's just looking at the king. He's like, I know that you know that what I am talking about is true. Now, I wish this is the way the interchange happened. As Paul says, believest thou the prophets? Oh, I know that thou believest. And then Agrippa just looks at him. He's like, yeah, buddy, let's do this. You know I do. When can I get baptized? That is not what verse 28 says. And many of you are familiar with this, and this is where King Agrippa, this is kind of what he is known for. King Agrippa then said unto Paul, almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian. It's like, Paul is there bearing his testimony, and this powerful king is just like, you almost are persuading me to be a Christian. That word almost is a very interesting word. The word almost means very nearly, but not exactly or entirely. It's like, I can see Agrippa just like, I really want to believe you. But if you understand that if I believe you, then I've got to give up a whole bunch of stuff right here. As I was looking up this phrase, this almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian, I came across a very obscure quote, which is kind of a fun one. It's just in the fact that it's a little bit dated, but I think the principles here are true. It's from President Harold B. Lee back in 1964. In response to the master, come follow me, some members almost, but not quite say, thou persuadest me to be honest, but I need extra help to pass a test. Almost thou persuadest me to keep the Sabbath day holy, but it's fun to play ball on Sunday. Almost thou persuadest me to love my neighbor, but he is a rascal. To be tolerant of others' views, but they are dead wrong. To go home teaching, but it's so cold and damp outside tonight. To pay tithes and offerings, but we do need a new color TV. Almost, almost, almost. When you almost keep the commandments, you almost get blessed for it. And so there's that power here as Paul is boldly testifying in front of King Agrippa. King Agrippa could have had the courage to be able to stand up and say, Paul, I believe you and I'm grateful for what you're testifying of. But all of a sudden, that natural man within him is fighting back. And he's like, almost. You almost got me, Paul. Well, I think there are some lessons there for us as well as we are trying to keep the commandments. Let's make sure that we don't just almost do it. Let's make sure that we do keep those commandments and we don't end up like King Agrippa, who could have had a chance to be able to do it, but he did not. Anyway, I love that principle and I'm grateful for it, and I know that it is true. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks as always for sharing. We're so grateful that you do that. And if you haven't already, please go check out our amazingly comfortable gospel themed socks at bombsocks.com. Godspeed, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.